When I was 14 years old, I was running a little canteen store my parents owned and asked me to run for them. I did all the things, including all the buying for it. And there was a man, a grown man, a distributor for us, who would not take my orders, not wouldn't fill them. He wouldn't take them. He'd argue with a 14-year-old girl about what I felt needed to go on our shelves. I'll tell you what finally fixed that issue. It wasn't me getting older. It wasn't me arguing better, however, I wish I could have. And it definitely wasn't a title because here's what I learned at 14. And I've watched it play out in every executive room since. You can have the authority and still not have it. I'm Meredith, and this is the Rooted Leadership Podcast. If you've got an interview coming up on either side of the table, this episode is for you. Today, we're going to do something a little bit different. 9 questions. 3 you should be asking any company you're interviewing with. 3 about culture, because culture will make or break you in any role. And 3 for when you're the one across the table doing the hiring, because an interview goes both ways. And most people are only prepared for one direction. I've spent more than 20 years in the corporate life, hiring, being hired, and watching what actually separates women who thrive from the ones who burn out. These 9 questions are the ones that have held up across every one of those years. The questions you ask tell a hiring team everything about how you think. Average questions signal an average approach. Strong questions signal a woman who is already thinking about outcomes, and there is a difference. Here are the 3 I always recommend. When you're interviewing, ask, what does success look like in this role in the first 90 days and in the first year? This question does something smart. It moves the conversation from evaluation to vision. They're no longer interviewing you. They're picturing you in the seat. They start describing what they need, and you're sitting right there. That's a powerful shift to create before anyone says the word offer. And practically, you need the answer. You need to know how they define success before you decide whether their definition is one that you can deliver on, setting you up for success. Next is, what are the biggest challenges this role needs to solve, and what has made them hard to solve so far? This one's a little uncomfortable. That's exactly why you ask it. The answer tells you 3 things at once: what resources they have actually been willing to commit, whether the problem is structural or whether it's people, and whether leadership owns any part of why it hasn't been solved yet. A company that answers that honestly is a company worth working for. A company that gets vague and defensive just to tell you something, well, they just told you something. How does the executive team make decisions, and where does the role have real authority versus an advisory influence? This is key. Some companies hand out titles and then manage the person inside them into irrelevance. You need to know. Are you walking into a seat with real authority, or are you walking into a very expensive suggestion box? Now, let me tell you why that question matters. When I was 14, my parents handed me a canteen store, a little store at a Job Corps center. It wasn't huge. It did 6 figures a year. For a 14-year-old, that was major. And I ran all of it. I stocked it. I staffed it. I kept the books. I dealt with the vendors. I placed the orders. And one of those vendors decided he was not going to do business with a 14-year-old girl. He second guessed every single thing I ordered. That'll never sell. You're going to get stuck with that. All the cliches. Here's what he kept forgetting. I was 14 buying for a store that served 16 to 22-year-olds. I wasn't guessing. I was buying for my own friend group. Several of the things he swore would flop became our top sellers. But that's not the lesson here. The lesson is what my dad did. He didn't take the account back. He didn't call the man and smooth it over for me. He told that distributor plainly. He said, "You will go through her on everything. She's doing the ordering and she's writing the checks. And if you don't like it, we'll find another distribution channel." Whew, that's it. He did not do the job for me. He stood behind me and dared that man to move me off of it. I had the authority the whole time. What I didn't have was anyone making it real. That's what you're really asking with that third question. Not about an org chart, about who stands behind you when you make the hard call. Ask it directly. A strong company won't flinch. They'll be glad that you asked it. Okay, now let's move on to culture. And I want to say something before I give you these next three questions. Most candidates never ask about culture directly. They talk around it. They hope they'll pick it up off the vibe that the room is putting out. Don't do that. Ask, because the culture you walk into will affect your health, your marriage, your faith, how long you're going to last in that seat. That is not a small thing. So here's the question. How does this company handle it when a leader disagrees with the direction from above? Sit with that one for a second, because the answer tells you everything about whether it's safe to be honest there. Healthy cultures have a real specific answer, a process, a moment they can pinpoint to. When they light up and tell you about a time a director pushed back and they changed course, that's the room you want to be in. Unhealthy cultures get uncomfortable. They generalize and they will pivot away from the question. Be aware of that. If they get vague, ask it again, not aggressively, quietly. The second ask is where you see who they really are. What happened to the last person in this role? Simple, direct, and almost nobody ever asks it. The answer matters. How they answer matters more. Are they forthcoming? Do they own any part of it? Or do they deflect, minimize, and badmouth someone who isn't in the room to defend themselves? Listen for that last one especially. Because how a company talks about the people who have left is exactly how they will talk about you someday. You want to know if you want to be a part of that. Now, you're not being rude by asking, you're being thorough, and the right company will respect you for it. The third question, how does leadership here model the work-life balance they say they value? Notice the word model, not do you value balance? Every company says they value balance. How do they model it? That word puts behavior on the table instead of policy. Do the executives take vacation? Do they send emails at midnight and expect an answer? Does the CEO talk about rest, or does the CEO work 7 days a week and expect the same? This is a huge key. You need to know who you're walking into. Now, let's flip the table, because some of you listening are the ones doing the hiring, and the rest of you are walking into the rooms where these questions are coming. These three show up in every strong executive interview I've ever been a part of it. Whether you're the one asking them or answering them, you need to be ready. I have been hiring and firing people since I was 14. And these are the three I keep coming back to because they tell me who a person is. The first, tell me about a time you had to deliver a result with less than ideal resources. What did you do? And what did you sacrifice to get there? Now, if you're the one asking the question, here is what you're listening for. The first half is about resourcefulness. Anyone can perform when everything is going right. I want to know what she does when it doesn't go right. The second half is the one that reveals character. Every trade-off has a cost, and strong leaders know exactly what theirs was. I want to see whether she can name it out loud. And if you're the one answering these questions, do not wing this. Have a real story ready and build it around one specific trade-off. What did you sacrifice? Why you chose that sacrifice? What it actually cost? That's what separates a performer from a leader. The next question, what's the hardest feedback you've ever received and what did you do with it? Now, if you're asking this, you're not looking for perfection. You're looking for coachability. Someone who can't name one real piece of hard feedback or who frames every criticism as somebody else's misunderstanding, that person's not growing. And a leader who isn't growing will eventually stop her whole team from growing too. What I want to hear is three things. Here's what was said. Here's how it landed. And here's what I actually changed because of it. And if you're the one answering a question like this, pick your moment before you walk in. Then use that same shape. Here's what they told me. Here's how it felt. Here is what I did different. That will keep you honest and it will set you apart from others. The third question, what is the most important thing you've learned about leading people? And what did it cost you to learn it? If you're asking this question, anyone can answer the first half. Every experienced leader has a lesson ready. The second half is where the real answer lives. What did it cost you? A polished, painless story means one of two things. She hasn't been tested yet, or she isn't being real with you about the test she went through. And a woman who can sit in that question with humility and tell you the truth, that's someone worth building a team around. Now, if you're the one answering that question, sit with it. Don't rush to the lesson. Name the cost first. A woman who can say out loud she paid to become who she is, that's a person they'll remember after everyone else has left the room. So be okay with sharing your honest feedback, your honest transitions. Here's your takeaway. Whether you are the candidate or the one doing the hiring, the quality of the questions you ask will always reveal the quality of leader you are. So don't walk into your next interview unprepared on either side of the table. Know what you're going to ask, know why you're asking it, and pay attention, not just to the answers, but how people answer, because that's where that truth lives. Remember that distributor I was talking about? The lesson was never that I finally convinced him. The lesson was understanding where authority actually comes from. Not the title, not a business card, from someone willing to stand behind you when it matters. So go find the people who are willing to stand behind you and be the woman who stands behind someone else. Nothing after it. Here's one way to start today. Someone in your life is in the interview process, I guarantee you right now. One side of the table or the other. Send this episode to her. That's all I'm asking. Don't shrink. Don't settle. Go be the woman another woman needs to see. And until next time, remember to live life rooted.